Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me today, it's my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Doing very well. It's just kind of I don't know how else to describe it. It felt like a calm week for some reason. Maybe it's because like the Sunday games being, there's some interesting stuff that happened, but maybe not that big clash game that happened where there's 100 things coming out of it. I don't know, maybe for a calm week. I felt like I just got to choose what I wanted to watch this week, which I enjoy. I really like that. Not only just in all 22 cents, a movie sense afterwards, late at night when I watch my movie. So yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling calm, Robert. I'm feeling calm. How are you?
I'm so happy for you, buddy. I'm okay. I had kind of a bad travel morning this morning. I'm in Miami right now. I'm going to a music festival with my wife this weekend, which I'm very excited about. Tomorrow, Friday, when you guys will be listening to this, the lineup is Explosions in the Sky is playing all of the world. The Earth is Not a Cold Dead Place, and then it's all house music for the rest of the night. And you might be asking, like, who is this for?
You.
It's for me. It's specifically for me. It's exactly what I want out of a Friday night in Miami. So I'm going to see an album played start to finish that is like deeply important to me that I probably listened to like hundreds of times while I was writing in college. It's what I wrote my wedding vows to. I walked down the aisle to Explosions in the Sky song. So all this like deeply important music, and then we'll just dance for a while. So it has nothing to do with the Dolphins playing the Eagles this weekend, but I am in Miami right now.
I don't think I ever told you this. When I was a GA at Pitt, Explosions in the Sky was my go-to working music for me for like a good solid year it must have been like 2012. But yeah, that was a go-to for me. That and Kid Cudi. Those were a lot of grinding.
See, all over the place. There
Cincinnati and like South Florida film. Yeah, that was East Carolina film when Lincoln Riley was a first-time offensive coordinator, and that was a lot of Explosions in the Sky and Kid Cudi at that time.
Yeah, I looked at as soon as the lineup came out, I was like, who is this for? And it's like, oh, it's for me. We have a lot to dig into this week, including the team that plays down here in Miami, playing in the game of the week, which is how we're going to kick off our week 7 preview, the 5-1 Eagles and the 5-1 Dolphins. Let's touch on both sides of the ball here. I wanted to start with the Eagles offense, kind of against the Dolphins defense, but more so just a look at what the Eagles offense is going through right now. We did an under the hood about them a couple weeks ago, but a disappointing performance against the Jets, at least the outcome. And I wanted to just ask you, as you went back and started studying the Eagles offense, what do you think is kind of holding this group back right now? What do you think is that missing ingredient with where Philly is on that side of the ball, maybe compared to what they looked like a year ago when they were really rolling?
To me, it feels like just not a lot's happening passing wise because the run game is still great and the run game is truly effective, and with or without the quarterback, the running back, everything, it's working fine. They adjust throughout the game. Passing the ball has felt very inconsistent, and not everything, even the good gains, do not feel like they're coming through the flow of the offense. And I think because of that I think they're trying to do a little too much. Where last year, and I think this is what made I think why we really like this Eagles offense, what Steichen was doing was that he was, Coach Occam's razor. He was the one that was very simple. Like, we're going to do this until you stop it. And you take away the one thing, we're going to do the next answer until you stop it. And it feels like this team, and I think my best example of this is in the first drive or the first quarter, I should say early against the Jets, is a glance RPO that the team ran. A glance is an in breaker. It's skinny post, an in breaker, an extended slant, however you want to call this. So, but it was a duo run with that little in breaker. It's what LSU used to run with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase a million times. Even the Bengals run it a little bit now. They run it, and Devontae Smith, who has some of the best hands I think in the league, drops the ball. This game would have gone for about 20 yards, and he drops the ball, and they never come back to that play the rest of the game. And it's there, the run or the glance RPO. They never come back to it. And so they just want to get to all these different things, these different answers. And I just don't feel like they need to. Just kind of play the hits. And I feel like they're trying to do it a little too much. And I think because of that, Hurts isn't showing confidence in what he's seeing. I think some of the looks are different for him. Offensive line woes happen. And I think that's, you got a first-time offense coordinator, or at least NFL offense coordinator. And I think sometimes the in-game adjustments aren't happening to him as quickly as maybe some guy that has more experience. I think, of course, Lane Johnson goes down and Jack Driscoll, their backup, is in against that Jets defensive line, and they don't provide any chip help. The second interception by Hurts should get rid of the ball quicker, but it's a 5-man protection with a 7-step drop back concept, which is a deep concept with a tight protection, a tiny protection. And that didn't make sense to me with a backup offensive lineman and against that defensive line. So I think some of the things they've gotten spoiled with, I think they were excited to try to do some new stuff, but I think they just have to get back to what's worked for them before. Kind of a continuation of when we went under the hood with them a few weeks ago. And I think it's just continued on.
And the other layer I wanted to talk about is that it's not like they're not trying to innovate. They're
Exactly.
trying so many different things. You go back and watch that Jets game, and it's actually kind of a fun game to study because there's so many little wrinkles that pop up over the course of the game. They had Devontae Smith in the backfield twice in the first half to try to create matchups. It's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. They used Boston Scott and DeAndre Swift on 4 plays together in pony personnel last week. Previously, all season, they'd only had 3 plays out of pony personnel with 2 backs on the field together. They had a couple different designs out of that formation. They had a run, they had a pass out of it. It's like, okay, these are positive plays, but it's not all cohesive. Like the different ways they're trying to find easy buttons don't necessarily feel like the most productive, most cohesive ways to do it within this offense. I guess that's what I would say. They're throwing a lot of stuff against the wall, maybe for the sake of innovation or the sake of creativity, kind of this idea of, well, we have to keep pushing this forward. We have to keep trying new stuff. But whatever they're trying, it doesn't feel like it's the part of a whole. Like the sum of the parts is not what you want it to be, even if they're trying a bunch of new things.
I totally, yes. It's the early in the game, they get into the red zone and they put Dallas Goedert in the backfield and they run a bubble to him. And it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But then they have Devontae Smith blocking for him. So it's like, why would I run a bubble for Dallas Goedert, who's a great player, and have Devontae Smith blocking for him? Like, wouldn't I just give the ball to Devontae Smith on a bubble and have Dallas Goedert block for him? Like, just, it's like, it's not a bad design. It's an interesting wrinkle, like you're saying, but it's like, why are you doing that? Like, just run your stuff. It's no one's taken it away yet. And they run a stretch RPO screen. I'm like, yes, you're running a tight end screen. Wait, you're running a tight end screen? As opposed to a Devontae Smith screen or AJ Brown screen. And then that kind of stuff is just not adding up. And some of the procedural stuff, like they'll go tempo and the guy, they're not set up. They're not lined up. They're running stick when they go tempo, as opposed to last year when they're going 4 verts when they go tempo. Like those little differences, like the ideas aren't bad. It's just that I think they can just get back to what they were doing before because that was working. I don't think anyone can really take that away because they're so talented. So I think that little difference right there when they go tempo, instead of running stick, run 4 verts. That's a difference between what they're doing now. They're doing it to be safe as opposed to just really taking it to defenses with the stuff that was working.
An offense that had to live on 1,000 tight end screens was the pre-Amari Cooper Cleveland Browns passing game. You have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Yeah. Like you don't have to live through 1,000 tight end screens. So again, I appreciate that they're trying stuff, but it almost feels like they've lost the thread a little bit with some of the stuff that they're trying. They're searching for easy buttons, but I don't love the places that they're looking. For example, their run game has been phenomenal this year. They're second in rushing DVOA. They've been so good running the ball. Against the Jets, they weren't as efficient running the ball. And if you look at why, the Jets DBs were just screaming downhill in that game. Tony Adams had 2 TFLs. Like that's how they were playing on the back end. Okay, well, if your DBs are going to play like that, what's one way you could take advantage? More play action. Get a couple play action shots. Just try to beat them over the top if they're going to play like that. If you look at the play action numbers for the Eagles this year, they're drastically down. They're using 24% of their dropbacks at play action, which is down from 30% last year. And this is the number that I thought was even more surprising. On early downs, only 30.6% of the Eagles dropbacks are off play action. That's the 28th highest rate in the NFL. It was 38% last year. So you have this dynamic run game. Wouldn't it make sense to try to tie a little bit more play action into that to take advantage of teams that are going to be a little overzealous, bringing guys from the second and third level to defend the run? So that's it. It's just that it's not like they don't have new ideas. It's that the new ideas aren't necessarily connected to the things that they do really well.
And they're still winning games and scoring points. That's the thing.
This is a top 10 offense by DVOA. That's even against the Jets, they were not bad. Their success rate last week was 11th on the weekend. Yeah. We're talking about like the sky is falling. That's not the case at all.
No, it's not.
But here's the important point I would make with that. I wouldn't look at the end result numbers and let those define how I'm viewing the Eagles offense. Because I think a lot of the results and a lot of the end game of it it just has come in a different way.
Yeah.
Hurts is having to do a lot more stuff off schedule. There's a lot more contested catches to A.J. Brown. Like if you look at their offense passing the ball against the Jets, Hurts is creating a lot more than he did really, except in the Rams game. And then A.J. Brown is just bullying people one-on-one. So even if the end result is good, it's a little circuitous getting there. And I don't necessarily feel that great about the process right now. So I wouldn't look at, oh, they're top 10 in all these categories. There's nothing to worry about as a kind of the end point on the discussion for where the Eagles offense is. I think they will be fine, but I think that there's a lot going on and there's a lot of context missing in whatever those end stats look like right now.
That's a great way to put it. That's it. It's the process and results type of thing. And so much is not happening in the flow. Like it's that truly what they're designed to do. It's Hurts hitting the back foot of his drop and letting that ball rip and the guy's catching it in stride. It's always a half second late, or it's Hurts creating, or it's just the run game. But like you bring up, the safeties are screaming down, run play action. Even just that RPO example that I brought up, that is designed to stop screaming down safeties, and they never got back to it once. That's again, and they're not providing chip help. Again, those are those examples I was bringing up. But the in-game kind of adjustments, if they're what they think they're going to get away with, that's been kind of what's lacking for me outside of just the like, okay, Jalen Hurts make a play or throw it to AJ Brown, and then he breaks 4 tackles and looks amazing. And I think that's where I was just doing a show this week, and where I got asked, like, why is, like Devontae Smith's numbers kind of getting hit a little bit? And I said, well, when you lack consistent offense, when there's so many mouths to feed, so many talented players, someone's going to miss out because you don't have enough ball plays. And that's Devontae Smith's usage right now kind of shows what's going on with the Eagles offense, I guess.
One other note I wanted to bring up, because I thought this number was pretty telling. They have 45 empty dropbacks this year, which is a lot. And it's about the same rate as last season, like 7 or so a game. Last year, they had a 50% success rate on those plays, which is the 5th highest rate in the NFL. 0.24 EPA per play, which is a 3rd in the NFL. It's a very high rate.
Yeah.
This year, 35% success rate, which is 24th in the league, and 17th in EPA per play, which is about average.
Yeah.
So even other things where they were thriving last year within specific kind of pockets of this offense, they just haven't gotten quite the same results this year. I think ultimately they're going to be okay.
Yeah. It's
just, there's a lot going on. This is potentially the week for things to kind of find their footing a little bit playing against this Dolphins defense.
Yeah. This is a team that had a 19-play drive to start last game going against a defense that's going, okay, have a dozen plays. And so when I just talked about there's mouths to feed, this is a game you can feed those mouths. This team can still pound the rock, and they have the lowest rate of 3 and outs in the NFL. So we're talking about inconsistent moving the ball. They have the lowest rate of 3 and outs. They get first downs. It's just, just continuing those drives. So yeah, this defense that this could be some good mouthwash, because they'll let you hop, skip, and jump your way down the field.
If Devontae Smith doesn't drop 2 balls and they have 3 turnovers instead of 4 and a couple fluky turnovers in that game, they're still undefeated. So important to bring that up with context. The sky is not falling, but I think it's worth kind of exploring why the offense looks like it does right now. So I do think that there are going to be a lot of points from the Eagles side of this, but I think that says a lot about the Dolphins defense. Unfortunately for Philly, I also think there are going to be a lot of points on the other side of the ball. I went back and I watched the Eagles defense play against the Rams in preparation for this, because I thought the Rams would be a good measuring stick for what the Dolphins are. Not personnel wise, obviously that's a lot different. The Rams are almost exclusively 11, but all the motion that they use, some of the run game stuff. And so looking at the Rams game plan against the Eagles, it looked like the Dolphins play all the time. It's a bunch of perimeter runs. It's a bunch of screens. Screens aren't like the baseline of the Dolphins passing game, but getting the ball out on the perimeter quickly, I guess is how I would describe it. A lot of pin pull stuff. So watching that game, I think, gave me a really good window on what this will potentially look like. And I didn't feel very good about it from the Eagles linebackers and Eagles spine of the defense perspective.
Yeah, the spine of the defense. That's it. It's they're going to have a long day, I think. They're and also the perimeter runs, because this Eagles defense has gotten better stopping the run, especially when they're in their big boy personnel. They're heavy, they're base personnel. But when they're in nickel or when they're in sub personnel, 5 DBs or more, not good. It goes from a top 10 defense out of base to a bottom 10 defense out of sub. And the Dolphins, even though they've been experimenting a little bit with more 12 personnel, they have this undrafted free agent. I have to give this guy a shout out because obviously they like him. Julian Hill, he's undrafted free agent tight end. They're finding ways to get him on the field. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna put a pin in that. That's interesting to me. But I think this game they lean into the 11, and like you said, the perimeter runs, the end arounds, the sweeps. It's fun watching the Rams and Dolphins offenses, who I think are, I mean, along with the 49ers, using motion better than anyone right now, and seeing the same DNA with their run game, but then how they interpret it. It's really cool. Like it's the same plays, but one's doing it from under center with the jet motion lead. The other is putting a running back outside and orbit motioning him. And it's just, yeah, but it's the same bones as they come out. But I think that's really cool how they dress them up. You don't want to run down the throat at Jalen Carter over and over and over. So let's get them running side to side. Let's get these linebackers, these intermediate defenders, looking every which way. The Dolphins live in this world. So I think running
it's
the ball,
a very good matchup for Miami. What they
is.
want to do is what the Eagles struggle with. I was curious about this when I was watching the Rams game because, like, man, it seems like they ran 100 screens. The Eagles have faced 45 screens this year.
Oh, wow.
Running back, wide receiver, and tight end screens. The numbers on True Media are a little wonky. You can only search by screen routes on a play, but screen routes, the Eagles have faced 45 of them so far this year, which is the highest number in the NFL. It shouldn't surprise you, right? Because you want to get them moving side to side, and that pass rush is really aggressive. Yeah. So that, again, the plan that the Rams had is the plan that I think a lot of other teams are going to adopt. So it makes a ton of sense. And what I thought was notable about the motion stuff, specifically when the Eagles are playing against the Rams, even with a couple backup DBs in there, I thought the communication was very good. So clearly they're well coached. They're on the same page. They're passing things off really well. It was very smooth. But in terms of just covering ground, that's just not how they're built. Like, you want to take advantage of the edge defenders in the run game, and you want to get the linebackers moving side to side. If you can let Zach Cunningham move straight downhill, that's not that puts him in a position to succeed. If he's moving side to side or backwards, then you're at an advantage. And I think that's exactly the way the Dolphins want to play, and that's exactly the type of stuff you're going to see.
It couldn't be any more different linebacker styles than like Matt Milano and Zach Cunningham, and then watching them go against the Dolphins. That's the difference,
right? Great example, because the Bills, the team we've seen do the best against this Miami offense, those guys were getting depth. Those guys were eating up so much space. Go back to the Niners game last season, when these defenses that have had success against Miami, that's the type of linebackers you need to really take it to this team. That's not the way the Eagles are built. So I just feel like that's going to be a consistent problem. And the Rams did such a great job in the passing game of, we're not even going to deal with the outside corners.
Yeah.
We're going to waste the tight end over there. We're going to do some 1x3 stuff. And I think the Dolphins are going to do a really good job of that as well. We don't want to attack outside the numbers against Darius Slay and James Bradbury. We want to make your guys' heads fall off because they're spinning so hard between the numbers. And I think that's exactly the type of game plan you're going to see.
Where was your question mark all offseason? Oh, the spine? Yeah, I'm attacking that. I'm spreading you out. I'm going side to side. Even just how the Dolphins against the Panthers were peppering in quick game. And it's just Mike McDaniel was really good at this stuff, guys. Like, just getting into empty, putting Braxton Berrios at the 3 spot, and then the running back at the 2 spot. And again, that sounds just, why doesn't everyone do that? No one really does that. Like, it's just kind of a funky look to give defenses, but then going on the quick, running a little quick game to Berrios, and instead of getting 6 yards, like I watched the Cardinals or the Cowboys run stick and get 5 yards, and it's like, okay, good job. Berrios is getting 12. And that's the difference with the same exact stuff everyone else is running, but because of the tempo they use, the tempo of their players, the tempo of alignment, the tempo of their formations and motions, they just take advantage of all the spaces they get.
The Rams went empty 11 times against the Eagles. The Dolphins lead the league in empty dropbacks this season. So again, all of the buttons that the Rams were trying to push in that game are the buttons that the Dolphins want to push anyway. And
the Dolphins are experimenting with empty run game, which usually means the quarterback, but for the Dolphins, it means single wing spin stuff. That I talked about flex bone. They're doing single wing stuff. They did it against the Broncos for a touchdown. They hit a big one to Tyreek Hill this game. So yeah, so they're doing empty runs now with jet motion and motions going every which side. So yeah. Weird. Dolphins are really fun to watch on offense.
And the way that the Eagles are kind of surviving on defense is that their pass rush is getting after people. Like
Yeah.
their front four is
Yep.
so good, but the Dolphins' ability to mitigate that from teams, I think, kind of defangs the most important, dangerous part of this Eagles defense. The Eagles defense is 20th in success rate right now. They're 18th in EPA per play. Like you can get after this unit a little bit, and they're banged up. So I expect this to be sort of a high-flying affair. Yeah. I would not be surprised if this was a 35-31 sort of game.
And it's funny just with this Dolphins team. Again, when I'm saying like, with the Rams doing what they do, and it's the same kind of bones and everything. What the Dolphins are doing is offensive football since the freaking 40s. It's combining misdirection with speed. It's a combo as old as football, but they do it with Tyreek Hill, and they do it out of the shotgun and everything. But it's really cool to see what they're doing, and they're going against a team that doesn't have that ability to recover that we see. Like that's what Zach Cunningham. That's his issues. Is
they just don't have a lot of team speed on the second and third level. Like that's just not how they're built, and so that's going to be fine against some teams. It's against this team, I do think it's going to end up being a problem. And that's before you even dig into some of the injuries. Reed Blankenship is banged up. Bradley Roby, who is playing in the slot for them, isn't practicing right now. So I'd be concerned if I were on that side as an Eagles fan. But I do think that they're going to be able to keep pace with the firepower.
I think so too. It's going to be a fun game. As a neutral fan, cannot wait for this game.
Yeah, we sometimes we kind of hand wave the Sunday night game in service of the prep that we're doing. That will not be the case. We will be talking about this game shortly after it ends on our Sunday night recap. So please come back and check that out. All right. That is the game of the week. That is the marquee game. But most of the NFL right now does not belong on any sort of marquee. Most of the league is kind of mired in the middle. If you look at the standings, there are 15 NFL teams right now that either have 3 wins or 3 losses when you take buys into account. So what I wanted to do today on the verge of week 7 here, as we kind of nudge toward the halfway point, is do an exercise that we're calling serious or unserious with these 3 win or loss teams that we're looking at right now. So this isn't going to be a treatise on every team. I don't want this to be even that much of an analytical exercise. No. I want this to be like from deep in your gut, how you feel about this team right now and whether we're taking them seriously or not as a playoff contender, not as a potential playoff contender. As a playoff contender, are we taking this team seriously right now? Okay, so we're going to run through all of these right now, and we'll see how long this ends up taking us. It's going to be a 6-hour show.
Who can get high above the mucky muck?
All right, we're going to start in a complicated place, and that is with the New York Jets. New York Jets, serious or unserious?
At first, I was going to say serious, but I actually ended up going with unserious on this one. I watched the game back. They had a great performance against the Eagles. I think this defense is, of course, good and even very good. Maybe not exactly as high up as I thought. They did a great job against the Eagles. Mekhi Becton's playing great on offense. And then I watch Zach Wilson, and then I just can't get around on him. I just can't. And I hate to say
better, but I don't know if him being better moves the needle enough for me.
That's it. And it's like Garrett Wilson's great. Don't get me wrong. They have young players. Jeremy Ruckert's like stepping up at tight end. Breece Hall at running back. Mekhi Becton, like I said, is playing awesome, but that's just, I just can't. Just some of the mistakes I saw Zach Wilson making that game, just inconsistent reading stuff still. It flashes as a scrambler, but then his eyes are just all over the place. There's one play that they didn't have a route on the right side because they're just doing a heavy protection. I know we wanted to keep these short, but I have to bring this up. And he reads the trip, like there's a 3-man route to the other side. His eyes, because there's a little bit of pressure, immediately goes to the other side where there's no routes being run. And it was just like, oh man, here we are still we're in just guessing. So that I just wish I could see Aaron Rodgers with this team because they do have a lot of talent, but I just can't get there because of the quarterback.
That's how I feel. What I said was still going with unserious, but I'm open to being wrong. Yeah, I guess that's what I will say. I think the defense has a chance to really elevate over the rest of the season. They haven't been great so far this year, not as good as we thought they'd be, but I think the arrow is trending up. They've been better over the last couple weeks. But they're, again, 2 turnovers, 1 turnover fewer against the Eagles, and that's a loss. They beat they lose to a Patriots team that we feel like is bottoming out. They beat a Broncos team in a super fluky way. So I'm not there yet. I can't get there with the offense, even if I'm excited about the defense. So I'm still leaning unserious with the Jets.
I'm right there with you. That's exactly how I feel.
Raiders, serious or unserious?
Ooh, Raiders. I do think they are better than people realize, but they're unserious.
I did not expect this to be the tone that you went with. I thought this would be very quick.
No, they're better. I think they're actually like kind of frisky in their own ugly way, but unserious. They are not a playoff team just because, I mean, look, their quarterback situation. And I just think that
their offense is bad.
They have to win ugly. Yeah.
Yes.
They have to win ugly, and they don't have like anyone outside Max Crosby on defense. They have some guys playing okay on defense, but they don't have a lot on defense.
Is outplaying the personnel. The defense is outplaying the talent, but that doesn't say much because the bar is on the floor when it comes to their defensive talent.
Exactly. And then offense is just, it's such a slog. It's like they're a jiu-jitsu team, man. They just want to get you on the ground and just turn everything into just this ugly, like 17-4. Oh, look at all their game scores. It's a race. It's a race to 17. I make jokes about race to 20. It's a race to 17.
I find them deeply unserious. And the entire offensive production and the entire offensive process. What has happened with Davante Adams this week, I find amazing. Davante Adams is a very smart. Like, talking to Davante about football is one of my favorite things I've ever gotten to do in this business. Like, the nuts and bolts of how you play the position. Exactly. Extremely thoughtful. So him coming out this week and essentially saying, listen, we're bad. I'm good. They should throw me the ball more. But him just doing it in the most matter-of-fact, calm. Like, this is a guy who got traded to a team to play with his college quarterback. That guy got cut. He has no ties to this organization whatsoever. So he's just talking about it in such a cold, calculated way where he's like, I don't know, guys. We're not very good. I'm really good. I just think they should throw me the ball more. And he's just being so calm and
he's not wrong
about it. He's not wrong at all. But this is a guy who has multiple All-Pros in the last few years, is making $30 million a year for an organization that he just happens to be a part of, and he's talking about it that way. I find it fascinating. Yeah. And there's so many people today were, when I was tweeting about it, we're like, oh, well, we're going to, this is okay. Like, you could just come out and say this. I think Davante Adams over the last 5 years deserves much more of the benefit of the doubt than the Las Vegas Raiders organization.
Yeah. I think that's pretty easy.
That's kind of how I feel about this right now.
Just how Davante carries himself. Feel like you're just getting to. It's like, yeah, I trust his his I would say professionalism over the Raiders.
Exactly. His professionalism is much easier to rely on now than the Raiders organization and what they have been like. Yeah. That's where I'm landing on.
I know.
This.
I want to reiterate. It's like, I was never going to say serious about this team. I just think that they want to draw people into the muck. So I think that's just like, they're going to be in more games, but they're a very unserious team.
I've unfortunately landed into Davante Adams fantasy shares this year. He's such a great player. I love him so much. Watching this offense makes me hate myself every single week. It's a truly unpleasant experience. Speaking of unpleasant experiences, Los Angeles Chargers, serious, unserious.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm serious. Consider I'm serious, even if I have so many doubts about him. I just think the offense is good. And I think Herbert's good. Even with the Monday performance, he's playing well. If they have another injury to an offensive starter, then I would be tapping out. But
I think that's totally reasonable. I said serious, but don't feel good about it.
Yep.
I feel shitty about it, but I'm still going with serious because of how good we've seen the offense be. Mm-hmm. You hope that the performance against Dallas is a product of Dallas and not of what's going to come in the future. For the Dallas defense is still very good. I know what happened against the Niners. They're still very good. Yes. The pressure they got consistently in that game, pretty much the entire game. You're not going to face that every single week. So Herbert was bad, flat out bad on Monday. But I do think that there are going to be better days ahead against teams that aren't the Cowboys. I will say two things. One, I'm worried about the pass catchers again without Mike Williams. The idea that Quentin Johnston is just not a factor as all of these receivers are ready made in the NFL that you drafted in the first round. Imagine Zay Flowers on the Chargers right now.
It's insane. It's exactly what they need. It's exactly what they need.
And guess what? They could have had him.
I know.
They drafted Quentin Johnston first of all these guys right after JSN. Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers on this team right now instead of Quentin Johnston. How much better do you feel about that?
Addison would have been great too. Just like a zone beater for them.
I was looking at the draft yesterday and I was getting mad as I was looking at it. So that is a concern to me. The idea that Josh Palmer continues to get all these reps for them necessarily, that worries me a little bit. The other thing that worries me, and I don't know how we missed this. This is all on me. I didn't realize that Corey Linsley was on IR.
Yeah.
And he was just out for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
With a heart issue that he's dealing with.
Yes.
That concerns me. because I think just communication wise, getting everybody on the same page, Corey Linsley is a force multiplier in the middle of an offensive line. He makes everything else better. And I think you have felt his absence, and you absolutely felt it on Monday night. So even if I still think they're serious, those are two things I'm keeping an eye on and worried about.
And originally when I was writing, they can't sustain any more injuries. They need Eckler to be healthy. It's because losing Mike Williams needs so much in this offense. Even if he's missing some games, just him being out is just devastating. But I was saying with a backup center playing, I mean, they lose one more guy, then I'm like, oh no, because especially with this offense, they put so much on the center quarterback battery, the exchange there. Just think of Dak over the years with the Cowboys. This is old school. This is non-Shanahan offense that lets the quarterback and center figure out everything. And Herbert's very smart and everything, but now you're putting it all on him. And it's just another thing that he's carrying more of a load of. So, and the defense is flawed. So you're hoping that some more Staley third down junk ball stuff like he did at the end of last year, which he might come
be
up
the
for.
22nd best defense in the league, and their offense is top 5. They're serious, and that I do think is reasonable.
It is. They just need to get fine. Quentin Johnson's been underwhelming, but you draft him, you got to find a way. You got to find a way to get him working.
I totally agree.
Have to.
Cleveland Browns, serious, unserious.
Oh, serious. The defense is too serious not to take them all serious. I don't care what's happening on the offense.
I feel the exact same way. The defense is going to keep them in every single game. It's the best defense in the league. Every single metric is just absolutely insane still. We'll see about the Watson timeline and when he plays. It does sound like he's trending in the right direction. The offense has been bad when you look at the underlying numbers, but I do think that there's an explanation for it, right? Week 1, weather game. Steelers, terrible set of turnovers. It actually looked pretty functional outside of those turnovers. Good outing against the Titans. Then he gets hurt. DTR against the Ravens in a game where you can't even function, right? You have a rookie, 5th-round rookie.
We're talking about tight end screens. They have Amari Cooper now, but they're still doing all the tight end screens.
That's all you got.
That's all they have.
It's the Kevin James in Hitch thing. It's just like, you just stay right here. Stay right here. This is all you have. And that's exactly what it felt like. And then you get PJ Walker against the Niners. So they're 27th in offensive DVOA, but it's been a nightmare scenario. And even against the Niners, I liked a lot of the stuff they were doing. Like, I still think this is a good group with a good plan offensively, even if the results haven't been there. So when you combine that with the way they're playing on defense, I think pretty definitively serious.
PJ Walker cracks me up because that dude just plays with confidence. So you just feel, even if it's not going right, you feel like, hey, he threw it. Like, he looked like he knew what he was doing. So I don't know. There's something about how he plays that's just so funny to me. But no, I'm with you. If this Browns offense ends up average 16,
which I think is very much on the table,
totally reasonable, with a perhaps once in 10 years type defense, or someone up there as a defense we talk about over years to come, that's a playoff team, or at least contending to be one, even though the AFC is tough.
Cincinnati Bengals, serious, unserious.
I have to say serious, just even
they
if they
deserve the benefit of the doubt.
Yes, they do, and they're getting a bye week, so
they have so much equity built up. Yes. There's 3-3 at the bye. This could have been so much worse. They're serious. They're serious until they prove otherwise.
Absolutely, they, like you said, they get the benefit of the doubt, and they're hitting a bye week. And if this Bengals team's hitting at the right exact time, and I want to see what they do out of the bye week, because this is what the staff has done. So that's what I want to see.
All right, I feel like 4 of those 5 were the easiest ones we're going to answer. Now, after this, things get hard.
Oh my God. There's 2 here. I have no idea, so I can't wait to talk. At least 2.
Indianapolis Colts, serious, unserious.
Unserious, just because AR is gone. Even if I like where this team is going, this franchise is ascending to, but unserious for this year in 2023 because Richardson's on IR.
I think they'll be more competitive than people thought coming into the season, but I just don't think they have the horses this year. No. This was always going to be a reset. It was always going to be about the flashes on offense. We got fewer of them than we expected because they were all concentrated into a month, but I don't think serious for 2023, even if I feel good about where they're headed. That's what I'd say.
If you want to know, did you see how the Jaguars played them last week? So when the Colts were going on 11, so with 3 wide receivers, the Jags just tried out base. They just tried out 4 DBs and 3 linebackers. They're just like, no, you're not running on us, and we don't care about your receivers, and we don't care about Gardner Minshew. It was the Caldwell for the Jaguars you can tell he coached for Bulls, because he has that kind of deranged thinking sometimes where he just says, screw you.
Yeah,
Just,
real fuck you energy.
real
with
fuck you
that
energy.
staff, which I
I'm
really
like,
appreciate.
I'm
That
kind of all
tree
in.
really has it.
It's awesome. So yeah, but that's how the Jags treat the Colts, and it's like one of those where it's like, okay, if that's how they treat you, how are other teams going to go against you?
Colts fans, I know this is probably disappointing
Yeah.
because you've had some really nice moments this year. Be honest with yourself. Would you rather go 8-9 this year and miss out on all the elite players in this draft, or would you rather go 5-12 and get Marvin Harrison Jr.? Be honest with yourself.
Right. Or one of the linemen. Oh, just, yeah, they could be sitting up so nice. And again, AR back. He got his feet wet just a little bit, just perfect. What if they started Gardner Minshew for 12 games and then we just got 4 or 5 games, Anthony Richardson? They flipped it. And it's like, this is how we saw the flashes Anthony Richardson post by. And we're like, and they go 5-12. Like, that would be such a good
point. It is such a good point. What if his first 4 games were the last 4 games of the season? We would be so excited about what the Colts were going to look like in 2024. That's such a good way to look at it.
That's it. We're going to be so obnoxious about this team next spring. Like, we're going to, I'm already in
for myself. All right. Speaking of that, in a similar vein, Houston Texans.
Oh,
serious, unserious,
serious. And originally
you said that with conviction,
because originally I was going to say unserious. And then I dove into this one a little bit, and we like, I think everyone does that's watched this team. We like what the Texans are doing. We like where they're ascending on both sides of the ball. Have you looked at their schedule? That is why I think of that as
all
serious.
Right, I'm into this. Okay.
They have the second easiest remaining schedule in terms of DVOA. Here is who they play. Panthers, they host the Bucs, at Bengals, host the Cardinals, host the Jags, host the Broncos, at Jets, which might be a great loser leaves town match, by the way. Titans, host Titans, host Browns, at Titans, host Browns, host Titans, at Colts. This is a frisky team that doesn't have a lot of like real tough matchups. I'm taking this serious that they're fighting for that 7th spot in the AFC playoffs. They might get Derek Stingley dropped back in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I don't know. They're frisky. Stroud's playing good ball.
So you said serious with your chest. You didn't even hesitate.
No.
I didn't say unserious. My answer for this, because I'm a coward, is on the wait list for serious. Like, they're not rejected from serious. They're just currently on the wait list.
Was it in-person wait list only? Did you go a couple hours early? Say, hey, Texans are here. 6 o'clock open.
Just snag that reservation last minute. I'm very excited about them.
Yeah.
I just don't know if they got the guys. Like, I feel so good about the way they're playing defensively, but you still like, oh man, like they just feel like they're a year away. I know the flashes have been there offensively. So I'm not saying unserious. I just on the wait list for serious.
Nope.
Talk to me in 2 weeks about where the Texans are, because I'm not a non-believer.
No,
I just need a little bit more time.
To me, it's they're a 9-8 type team that could get lucky as far as breaks. And that's how I picture them. I'm not saying, oh my God, this team's going to win 12 games, guys. They're not going to lose. I'm saying that they're more of a 500-ish team that's punching above their weight right now. And that can get in. The AFC is beating each other up. They're hitting the bye week right now. And I like this coaching staff. So I think they're one of these teams that's going to take a leap after the bye week. That's how I kind of picture them right now. And yeah, I know. I just feel I shocked myself too. I really did. And then I was like, as I looked more into it, I was like, yeah, I'm going with them.
Washington. Serious or unserious?
This was the hardest one for me. I have no idea what to make of them.
You want to believe so bad, and I just don't understand why.
I want to. I ended up going with unserious. But it's truly, I said it's kind of a comedy and drama face. The smile and like frowny face. Like, I have no idea what to make of this team. I think the offense does do some nice things. The Howell sacks thing is an issue, and it's going to be an issue. And there's going to be bad game scripts for that. They also have a horrid schedule, a pretty tough schedule the rest of the way. So that made me even lean more unserious. Yes, they have 2 Giants games, and they have a Patriots, which is still kind of tough. But then they have Eagles, Seahawks, Cowboys twice, Dolphins, Rams, 49ers, Jets. Yeah, I'm sorry. Even if you're frisky, I think I'm just unserious because I don't think they can punch above their weight that much.
Yeah, it's unserious. There have been flashes, and the offense has been better than maybe we expected in some of those moments. But the inconsistencies on defense, even if they have talent, if you're in the market to potentially be trading away some of your best players at the deadline, Chase Young, guys like that, and the rumbles exist there. And I don't know if they will because guys are coaching and working for their jobs in that building.
Right.
You're not serious.
Exactly.
Like, you are not serious if
They're
that's the
sellers.
discourse around your team right now. So
No.
even if there have been some decent moments from the Washington football franchise this year, I still feel pretty good about unserious.
Yeah.
Seattle Seahawks, this is an easy one for me.
Yeah. Serious.
Serious. The
Yeah,
Seahawks are serious. I mean, they've
Seahawks
been
are good. The Seahawks are good, even if they
the
lost.
Seahawks are just a good team. They are deeply serious. That's
Yes.
an easy one for me. Green Bay Packers. Serious, unserious. This is another nightmare one.
No freaking clue. Yeah, this might actually be more than Commanders. This is how I put. This is my half measured one. I say I'm taking them serious right now, but I'm ready to hop off this thing so quickly, and I'm ready to hop off this. They need Aaron Jones. They need some juice. They're just not consistently good because they're so freaking young, and they might ascend. And just listen to how Matt LaFleur is talking. It's really funny because after the Raiders game, I believe it was, his comments weren't like, "Oh, we need to get better. I need to coach better." He literally was just like, "They need to execute." We're calling the right shit. They need to execute. God damn it. Like, that's how Matt LaFleur was talking. And I was kind of, okay, all right. So we'll see. I watched the film. They're so close. They're one of these teams. They're another young offense. They're so close. So I'm saying serious right now, but this could go either way very quickly.
I truly don't know.
I
truly don't know because this is one of those teams where if I say unserious, I could absolutely see them going on a run in the second half of the season.
Right.
It all clicks a little bit. The defense starts playing a little bit better. The offense, I understand. The offensive line is the injuries are a nightmare. Like what they've had to deal with, and Bakhtiari being out. I know Jenkins is back, but he's been banged up. They got all these moving pieces. The run game isn't what it was supposed to be because the line hasn't gelled. So that part of it, I don't know if that actually ends up getting better. But we have seen flashes from the offense this year, and that was without Watson. That was without Aaron Jones. So I do think there are better days ahead on that side of the ball. I still just don't know what to make of the defense. It just feels like another year where you can write up the offensive inconsistencies to inexperience. That's easy to do, and I think the correct place to land. What's your explanation for why the defense continues to look like this?
I know. I have none because it's the same issues. It's the same stuff. It's just like, holes in the run game.
They didn't do anything differently this offseason, and now the results are all the same.
Drafted another first rounder on the defensive side. I know it's the same issues. It's the run game stuff. There's a guy that's missing a gap. The pass game stuff. There's communication on the back end, miscommunication on the back end, like that. It's the same stuff that's given them issues the last couple of years, and it's kind of. Yeah, it's Cheetah doesn't change its spots, whatever the line is.
Definition of insanity. He keeps doing the same thing all the time and expecting different.
I know. I know. That's why I focus so much on the offense with the Packers talk, because I'm just like kind of already accepted what this defense is, even if I like some of the players and they're young, they're all these first rounders, all these talents. It's another team that's less than the sum of their parts. Like, even if I like some of the parts.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, serious, unserious.
I actually couldn't even tell you what I wrote down here. Oh, kind of serious. I
said semi-serious.
Okay. I look at the Bucs and the Jets in similar categories. The defense is kind of frisky.
Interesting.
The offense has some nice pieces, but they have a quarterback that melts down under pressure. But the difference is one plays in the AFC East, the other plays in the NFC South. And that's why I think the Bucs are more serious in a positive way than unserious, and the Jets are more unserious just because of what they play in.
If you look at the numbers right now, I think the Jets are 12th in defensive DVOA and the Bucs are 10th.
Okay.
I think they're going opposite directions.
Yeah.
I think the Bucs probably finish somewhere like maybe in the top half of the league, but closer to league average.
Like 14.
I still think yes. I still think the Jets finish as like the 8th best defense in football. Like, I think they're going to be trending in that direction. So I do think the Jets defense is better. I feel better about the Bucs offensive infrastructure though.
Yeah.
The line has played so much better than I expected them to, especially a tackle. Like, obviously Wirfs is a good player, but for him to thrive the way that he has, Gadecki's been really solid. They're young in the interior and they'll figure that out. There's some things to settle there, but that combined with the weapons, I still think that they'll be functional on that side in a way that I can't necessarily pencil in for the Jets. So I think that's probably why I'd say semi-serious, and agreed. They have to win the NFC South. And we're going to talk about the rest of the NFC South teams here. There's no one you feel great about.
None.
So semi-serious, I think, is where I'd land with the Bucs, but I don't feel awesome about it.
No, it's if Baker gets hot in a game, which he can, like he can get hot, like we've seen it already this season. Then yeah, they're going to hang in all the games, but that's going to determine a lot. And this defense, Todd Bowles, and this is historical with him, is that some guys have his number. His defense is unique, but if you got it dialed in, my dad was one of them. If you have it dialed in, it's great because you know what you can get after him with. But that's kind of his MO, is that he's going to have great matchups and bad
That's
matchups.
a great point. I think the specificity and the uniqueness of the Bucs defense gives it less staying power than how the Jets are built.
Right.
I guess I feel much better about the Jets in any given matchup than I do about the Bucs defense.
I watched the Jets defense and I could point to 6 other teams. I'm like, oh yeah, they run that, they run that, they run that. And then I watch the Bucs defense. I'm like, kind of the Jags, but not really. Yeah. That's kind of it.
Yeah, that's how I feel about them. I think semi-serious is the correct answer. We're wading into the other NFC South teams here. This is a quagmire. Okay. Atlanta Falcons. Serious, unserious.
I have to say,
I was waiting for this one.
Have to stay serious. Latching onto this day.
You can't give it up. I love it.
Predicted to win 8.5 games. They're right at 500 right now. This is exactly where we're staying the course. I think the defense improvement is very real. I don't think they're going to get a lot of sacks. That's not how they're designed, but they're good against the run. They're Saints East, kind of what we expected. They're great on the back end right now. Jeff Okudah is having a renaissance year. AJ Terrell is still very good. Jesse Bates is playing like an all pro. Richie Grant's actually playing pretty solid. D. Alford's playing really well in the slot. I think the up front, they're big and hard to run on. They're not going to get a lot of juice in the pass rush. And I think the offense is sitting on a big game. I really do. If they just don't have these fucking turnovers, they're going to blow a team out. But I think they're still serious. I really do. Eliminate turnovers and they're going to be clicking.
For me right now, they're unserious. They need to prove to me that they're serious. Okay. I just, for how badly I want them to be serious, because I'm with you. I think the offense is closer than it might seem. I do think that they're the exact type of team that you could see it all clicking into place in the second half of the season.
Exactly.
We're only 6 weeks in. Think about the discourse around certain teams, certain offenses, certain units 6 weeks into last season.
Right.
They are exactly the type of unit where you have a first-year starter, full-time starter. You have all these new pieces on offense trying to figure out what they are, what they want to be. I wouldn't be surprised if they become a top half of the league offense down the stretch. They really figure it out. And I'm with you. I think the defensive improvement is real. But for now, all of that stuff is theoretical. So exactly. For now, they are unserious to me until proven otherwise. I'm open to changing my mind.
It's so hard for me even turnovers is something I go so back and forth on. I think, of course, there's some players that push for more turnovers. They're going to be more susceptible to them. And then I think sometimes it's just, oh man, that's just freaking lucky. It's just bad luck just happens. And so that's where I hate to always, I'm just as more like a disclaimer when I talk about this stuff. I hate to always just wave it away like, oh, no more turnovers and they'll be fine. So that's what I have to figure out. Is this a feature or a bug? Is this just something that it was lucky or unlucky? And that's what I have to determine with them. Last year when I watched the Jags, or this year when I watched the Jags, I'm like, I've seen it. They're going to be fine as long as they clean it up. I know Trevor's not like that. But then this team, you still have that question mark. So I'm just figuring that out.
New Orleans Saints, serious, unserious?
I think unserious. As much as I love that defense, I think the offense is just so unserious right now. The offensive line is banged up. It's just, God. Derek Carr's play style with that offensive line, I just can't get serious about it. I just can't, because it's not going to be conducive to consistency.
I'm saying serious. I think the defense.
Sounds so happy about it.
I hate it. I just hate myself for even saying it, because we talked about this on Sunday night. The line is just, it's a problem.
It's bad.
It is a problem.
Yeah.
But another point we brought up on Sunday, and this was kind of rattling around in my head, is I just typed serious. I don't even have any other notes, just says serious, because I just couldn't bring myself to say anything else. Is the juice on offense is real.
Yeah.
Like the talent that they have at those pass catcher spots is real. If Carr is, let's say he's at 70% right now with that shoulder, if he can be a little bit healthier than he is, if the line gets 1-2 notches better, I do think they have the skill position talent where they could find their way out of this morass. Right. This isn't like you watch the Patriots right now. It's like, this is over. Right. Like, it's just absolutely over. So I do think there's a path out of this. And I think combined with that defense, that's why I'm giving them the serious nod, even if I don't feel overly confident about it.
They're another team that's going to be in every game because of that defense. And I think it's a great point to bring up is that Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave and a somewhat healthy Michael Thomas, it's a lot of heat. It's like, so they can hit 2 big plays on you, and then they're in every game. Their defense clamps down on you. So they're
how
a
I
win
feel
ugly
about
team.
it.
I get
That's
it.
how I
totally
feel
get
about it. It doesn't take that much for their offense. They're still explosive offensively. It's just really inconsistent.
Right. But when you have, they're lucky because
let
they have
me
that
say
defense.
this. They have the potential to be explosive offensively. It's just been inconsistent. I don't think they have been explosive over the last couple weeks. They played well, again, between the 20s last week. But I'm going to give them serious for now, but it feels even like kind of gross to say that.
And with Andrews Pete playing left tackle potentially is
oh my God,
first time since Stanford, I think. So
it's just getting grosser. Okay, 2 more teams that we want to talk about with this, but we also are making this a matchup of the week. So very quickly, before we dig into the matchup specifically, serious, unserious Los Angeles Rams.
Serious. This offense and this frisky defense in that NFC, definitely serious. I think they're very real.
If we look at all these teams in the NFC that we just talked about, especially the ones where you maybe waver for a second, so throw Seattle out of there. Is there any single unit on those 6 to 8 teams that you feel better about right now than the Rams offense?
Probably not. No, it's like this and the Saints defense. I think those are 2 best kind of.
That's a good one. That's a very good one. I think
I really think. Yeah.
So I feel the exact same way. And it's not like the defense has been an abject disaster.
No,
they are slightly below average in almost every single metric. And there's a lot of reason to think that they will even keep getting better. They're very young, and that's not necessarily how it works. Like, it's not linear like that all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I do think that the arrow is pointed in the right direction, and combined with the way they're playing on offense, I think they're deeply serious.
Yeah.
I think if you're picking among all of those kind of second tier NFC teams, they have as good a case as anyone to be that 7th NFC playoff team right now.
Totally agree, especially how Stafford's playing, how this offense is playing, and like you're saying with the defense, they're having all these guys step up, these random undrafted free agents they have. Christian Roseboom. Troy Reader's back on the roster, by the way, which I think it's just always a delight. But
for you.
Oh man, that is truly a ghost of Christmas past right there. Is it Michael Hocht? Michael Hocht.
Hocht.
Okay, he's from Brown. I know that. He got caught in coverage the other day. He's like a 300-pounder that they use to do all these. He's like a Swiss Army knife for them. He's like not bad. Like, he actually was pretty good against the Cardinals. And I'm like, what are you? Like, he's interesting. But this team, they're scrapping together on defense. They do some funky stuff. Aaron Donald's playing phenomenal football right now. Weird. And yeah, I think this is a very serious team. I actually feel pretty good about saying that.
I was a little bit worried with the defensive personnel this year that on the end result, absolutely. But I was a little bit worried that because the defensive personnel was so bad that we kind of missed the window for Raheem Morris to get his chance to be a head coach again. I don't think that's the case. Like, if this finishes as a average NFL defense, considering the way this unit was constructed, he should be involved in every single conversation when we're talking about the people who should be on short lists for head coaching jobs. So I was a little bit worried that it's just the way the last couple of years had broke. It's like, oh man, like they're just giving him absolutely nothing and saying, all right, go make a meal out of this. And he had such little chance to do it. But the results they've had so far, he's a name we should be talking about more here as the season rolls along because of what they've gotten out of that group. So I'm with you. Pittsburgh Steelers. Serious, unserious.
This one I thought about this long and hard. I'm going with serious, even with that offense and Canada and how Pickett's playing. It's the Steelers, the Tomlin effect. It's the defense. I think can scrap together some games. And so I'm saying serious. I can't believe it, but I am. The offense is on the no-fly zone. And I'm saying serious. The offense is
the definition of unserious.
I know.
I think you're giving them way too much of the benefit of the doubt. You're giving them way too much leeway.
You think?
They are dead last in offensive success rate. This isn't like, they're 25th on offense. Maybe it gets a little bit better. They have been down in and down out the most unwatchable offense in the NFL in a world where all of these other terrible teams exist.
Man,
they are so unserious.
God, I don't know. I've learned my lesson when saying that they're unserious, so I'm keeping them in
Am
there.
I really scared about saying this and having it be on the record? Absolutely, I am.
Yeah.
But the offense right now in its current
The
state, I
safest thing
cannot
you
take
say is
them
their offense.
seriously.
Yeah, their offense is horrid. I get this. I get this, guys. Like, trust me. I wanted to say unserious, and I talk myself. And then I watch them, and I'm like, okay, like this is what happened in August. This is exactly what happened in August. I watch them, and I'm like, oh, they could do that on offense. Oh, look at this defense. Look at those players. Look what they're doing. So, yeah,
I can't do it. I can't do it. The defense,
I'm resigned to
though,
this.
the defense has plenty of interesting guys, plenty of intrigue on that. And that's why we're breaking this down. Rams offense, Steelers defense. Number one thing you're looking for in this matchup.
I want to see how the Rams figure out how to push the ball. This team is spread and shred. You know what their MO is going to be. Stafford's playing phenomenal football right now, and now getting Cooper Kupp back. It's so cool watching the Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Tutu Atwell trio is nice. It's very, very nice. But the spread and shred offense, I want to see how this offensive line holds up with the longer developing plays against the Steelers defense that we know is talented up front. Yeah, like I said, Rams like to push the ball. Stafford's capable of it. He will take some sacks because that is how this offense is designed. That is what's going to happen because they are going to push the ball. I think what's really interesting is the Steelers have been predominantly single high this season, which is they've done it before. They kind of run a little bit of everything, but it's interesting that they're so focused in cover 3 and cover 1, and they'll throw in some cover 2 on 3rd and 4th down. But I'm curious to see if they're going to live in that single high world. You're going to let your guys be isolated against these receivers, and maybe we see this might be a Tutu Atwell deep ball game. So that's what I'm watching, is just how they're going to protect and how much Stafford and them are going to push the ball, because they're going to try to.
Yeah, they're 66% single high on early downs. And that, I was wondering, is that a product of playing against a lot of heavy personnel teams where they're walking another guy down to the box? It's the exact same number essentially against 11 personnel. Yep. And that's what they're going to be playing against on Sunday, is that 11 personnel Rams team. So the Rams have done such a good job of, and it's a small thing, but I love the way that the Rams just create subtle matchups for receivers. The amount of times they're going 1-by-3 with Higbee as the isolated receiver, and they have all that heat on the other side. And you have Cooper Kupp lined up against, name your anonymous interior defensive back. It was random slot corner, random safety. They've done such a good job with that kind of stuff. And what I find so interesting about the Rams offense in general right now is that they're living in kind of these two extreme worlds, where you have this super spread out passing attack. And some of it is the empty stuff, but even beyond that, the formations are just so wide when they're out in shotgun. They're playing every blade of grass left to right. But then on early downs, they still have that condensed Rams world that they used to live in the previous iteration of what McVay was. And they're doing just enough play action for it not to be a super heavy tell. So it's just such a strange combination when you watch this really spread out team, and then they get super, super condensed to run the ball and do play action every once in a while. And whatever the mix is that they're doing right now, it's really working for them.
Yeah. I loved your point that you brought it up, because it's like, this is what we got on the Bengals a couple of years ago, until a couple of weeks last year, was everything's so siloed. Oh, you guys get under center, I guarantee you're running inside zone. You're doing this. And it's because Burrow doesn't like under center play action. That's one thing. And some quarterbacks just don't. Stafford's kind of still iffy on it too, but they do it because then that keeps defenses honest. You have to account for that. You can't tee off. Yes, you'll get them a couple times because you can predict, but then you're wrong a third of the time. And that can be advantageous for an offense that, like you said, is trying to shred you everywhere, outside, deep, over the middle. They're going to pick your spot. Stafford is just going to hang in there and fire it. So I think, though, what's so funny is that they will, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, it must be just the 500-word play calls they have, but they will package like the condensed formation into the spread formation, depending on what the defense is. So they'll start condensed. Stafford will do a little fake cadence. Okay, what's the defense in? Oh, okay, they're that look. Okay, we're going to spread it out on you. I just think that's really funny that they, rather than just kill from one look, that they're like, no, we're going to get to our two worlds. We'll just bounce back and forth by which one we want to attack you with.
I will say, that world they want to live in, where it's super spread out, a lot of 5-man protection, it's dangerous. And you said that. They will take some sacks, just kind of, that's the cost of doing business when you want to be this spread out and be vertical in the passing game. And against this Steelers team, that is potentially a concern. You saw that against the Eagles. They had a lot of success throwing the ball against the Eagles, but there are going to be 2 or 3 plays where you have drive torpedoing sacks potentially, because their line has been much better than it was last year. And even considering the personnel, we were talking about this a little bit earlier today. The trade for Kevin Dotson before the season for interior offensive line depth is a move no one notices at the moment. When Joe Nopum goes down, and now you have a capable right guard that you can just slide in there who's been solid for them. So they've gotten those sort of breaks along the line, but you still have Alaric Jackson at left tackle going up against TJ Watt or Alex Highsmith. Right. So I do think those matchups still severely favor the Steelers. And that's where I feel like the Steelers can kind of keep pace in this game, very similar to the game we saw them play against the Ravens. Yeah. Where they're outmanned in a lot of other areas. But if those matchups are ones you can consistently win, then that can be a great equalizer in a matchup like this.
Absolutely. If you, it doesn't matter if you get a 20-yard gain or a 30-yard gain. If the next first down, we get a sack on you and 2nd and 17, and both of your top running backs are out, and you had this offensive line that we're talking about, that's okay. That's solid. They are playing very solid. They're smart. You can't blitz this team because Stafford and this O-line will shred it. But that can lead to some inconsistencies. That can lead to some frustrating punts from midfield. I also just think in the run game will be interesting, because do you want to test that Steelers front, or do you want to work side to side? I think this is jet sweeps to Atwell and Nakua week. I think there's going to be a lot of toss plays. We talked about the Dolphins Eagles. I think similar reasons that they might try this in this game. And then the last thing is on 3rd and 4th down, I'm curious if the Steelers, because they did this against Jimmy G, is if they get into 2-man, because Stafford doesn't really scramble. Stafford looks so healthy right now. He is moving way better than he did last year and even parts of the Super Bowl year. But 2-man you're not really worried. Brady used to get 2-man all the time. Drew Brees used to get 2-man all the time. We're not worried about you guys scrambling. So we'll just match it up. Well, somebody's got to win. Cooper Kupp's really good against that, but this is a way to double team Cooper Kupp in a kind of a safer way. So curious if they get to that a little bit.
Another layer of that I think is worth noting. They play dime to 11 personnel at the 2nd highest rate in the league. Okay. 36% of their snaps on defense against 11, they play dime, which is the Patriots at a higher rate. So you think with that, do you have some matchups in man coverage that you feel okay about? And can you lean into some of that 2-man stuff? So I think that's just one more little detail that may point to something like that, maybe point to a solution like that. And the other thing outside of Watt and Highsmith, if Watt's banged up, by the way, he has a heel injury. So we'll see what happens with that, but worth mentioning here. If he plays and you have those matchups up front, the other star on the Steelers defense, all of the high-lows, all of the wrap routes, all of the in-breakers the Rams love to throw. How does that work when you have Minkah Fitzpatrick on the other side of the ball driving on that stuff? So that's just one more matchup, a kind of area of the field matchup to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. That's a great point. I think it's really fun that it used to be quarterbacks versus that middle linebacker, and against the Steelers, it's the quarterback versus the safety hanging in the middle. I think that's awesome and just very modern football. Very, very chic.
You mentioned this a little bit, but Kyren Williams and Ronnie Rivers being out, those guys are really good in protection, especially Kyren Williams. Protection. So do we see the Steelers try to test those protection rules, test the back, maybe blitz a little bit more than they might otherwise, because you have a new back in there that you can't really rely on in those situations?
And they will. It's 3rd and 4th down, they get funky. And so it's awesome, because what you can attack the Rams with, it's truly leaning into punch. How a defense can get after the Rams, get home with a blitz or win with our 4, hold up in coverage for 3 seconds. That's exactly how the Rams want to beat you. So it's a great styles make fights thing right here. So that's why I think this is a great match of the week, because it's sneaky good, these two units going against each other.
All right. One more matchup this week, a really good one. The Detroit Lions offense going against the Ravens defense, top 5 offense, top 10, top 5 defense. So many different layers to this that I think are worth digging into. Number one thing you're looking for with the Lions offense against the Ravens defense on Sunday?
You got a matchup it's 2 awesome coordinators and coaching staffs that adjust every single week. They throw in new wrinkles every week on situations, red zone, 3rd and 4th down. So I'm excited to watch 3rd and 4th down in this game. I think you're going to see some cool design stuff on both sides of the ball. You'll see some fingerprints. You'll see how these two teams think of each other and how they think they can attack each other, which I think is just going to be so much fun. But you have a top 10 third down offense going against a borderline top 10 third down defense that I think is only getting better. So what are the haymakers? I think the Ravens do some cool. I've talked about plenty with the Lions and their design stuff, and I think it's great on third and fourth down and in the red zone. But the Ravens and some of their front stuff's been really interesting. They've been leaning into this 6-man front with their 4 defensive linemen and their 2 linebackers, Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith. And again, trying to avoid too many of these play descriptions on a audio medium, but here we go. So how they line up here is Roquan Smith is in the B gap between the guard and the tackle. Patrick Queen, no one can see this unless you're watching the video right now. I'm talking with my hands, but Patrick Queen is the opposite A gap between the center and the guard. And what's cool is they're basically recreating a double mug look. We talk about Mike Zimmer defenses for years. Everybody does this now, but that's 2 linebackers in between or over either shoulder of the center. They're doing that, but just with different guys lined up in different spots. So it's a defensive lineman and a linebacker there. And they're doing double mug twists out of this, but they're picking the guard instead of the center. So it's just a little twist, pun intended, on what we've seen before. But that's what this Ravens defense does. They do some funky stuff. They bring cool blitzes. They change up their coverage looks, but they'll get to different stuff from that look. But now they're going against an offense that can protect. Their offensive line is pretty damn good in protection, sorting things out, but they're losing David Montgomery, who's good in pass protection. So really interesting what's going to happen, what's going to unfold on third and fourth down. I'm really, really curious.
If you look at the Ravens coverage distribution when they blitz on third down, okay, so it's very specific, but I do think it's very telling. That look that you're talking about, they ran it a bunch of different times against the Titans. It always expresses differently. One time, both guys will pop out. One time, both guys will come. One time, both guys will come and they'll run a twist. They do so many different things out of the exact same look. So if you look at the Ravens coverage distribution when they blitz on third down, they're third in the NFL in the amount of cover 2 that they use while blitzing. It's about 10% of the time. So enough to give it credence. Yeah. Enough where they could bring pressure and still play cover 2 behind.
If I were the quality control coach and tallying up each one, I have to include it as part of the tally, which does matter because you have to practice against it.
You have to think about it. So it's 10% of the time. They run cover 3 and cover 1 the exact same rate. It's 22.7%. So again, the exact same rate when they blitz on third down. And they use cover 0 on 30% of their third down blitzes. So when they're in that mugged up look that you're talking about, it could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. And that's why I love watching them, because very similar to the Lions, where this is connected to this is connected to that. Yep. The Ravens are the same thing on defense. This is connected to this is connected to that. And I just think that's what makes it such a fascinating matchup, specifically on third down. And then you add another conversation here about new running backs.
Yes.
David Montgomery was so valuable to the Lions in the first month or so of the season in pass protection. Everyone said, why isn't Jahmyr Gibbs playing? Why isn't Jahmyr Gibbs playing? Because David Montgomery was really good for them in protection, and they were relying on that. So now he's out. You bring Craig Reynolds in. The Ravens are going to test that. The Ravens are going to test those rules, and it is even more worthwhile because that's where the Lions are worst. Jared Goff, when blitzed this year, is like 17th in EPA per dropback. And it depends on what kind of blitzes too. I think that the Bucs were coming from depth a lot. They're playing zone behind it. He's actually been pretty good against zone pressures this year, but against man pressures, he's below average. And the Lions passing game is below average. That's like the one area where if you look at everything that they do, it's down a notch or two. So I feel like just coming after them, playing man behind it is a really good way to speed up this offense in a way they very rarely get sped up.
And this was what happened last week with Hurts and the Jets, is that when you bring these mugged up looks and you have a quarterback that maybe is, post snap confirmation, like isn't one of the elite guys, like Goff can sometimes be a little iffy post snap, but when you have no safeties back there, or they're low, or they're hanging over receivers where you can't kill, if it's that one high, too high, that causes just that extra hair of hesitation that you have to confirm. It's like, I can know these paths when they're coming from the top and coming down, but when everyone's distributing, going from the line of scrimmage and then out, that's such a different angle of attack. That means I have to throw, if I want to rip the seam ball that I love ripping, it's not, I have to beat the safety over the top. I have to beat this guy coming from the line of scrimmage or from intermediate getting over there. So just the angles and everything. So I think it's a great point. Goff has been very good this year. He has. It's just that he's always had difficulties when he's pressured, and against the blitz, sometimes he can short circuit. So Yeah, I think that's exactly what the Dolphins are going to be, or the Ravens are going to be attacking him with.
I want to have a golf conversation, but a couple more specific
Yeah.
things that I think are worth mentioning. The back-to-back matchups against the Bucs and then the Ravens are really a good comparison, because the one area where the Bucs and the Ravens are very, very similar is that they play base defense to 12 personnel at the first and third highest rates in the league, respectively, Tampa and Baltimore. So what the game plan was for the Lions last week is, we're going to get in heavy personnel and we're going to throw the ball.
Mhm.
That's what we're going to do, because we know we're getting you in base. Well, that's exactly how the Ravens are going to play against this. The difference is the Ravens base defense, they play Malik Harrison at one of those edge spots. Malik Harrison started as an off-ball linebacker.
Right.
So when you put him in coverage, he's actually pretty capable in some of those roles. So the Ravens have been able to hold up in pass coverage with their base defense on the field in ways that other teams can't all the time, because of how good Roquan Smith is, because of what their personnel looks like. So this plan of, we're going to get you in base and just sling it around the yard, I wonder if that works as well as the Lions are going to want it to in this game.
No, it's a good point. The base stuff is always, I talk about all the time with the Bucs or Spags with the Chiefs, and some of those defenses, even last year with like the Jets or the Seahawks, you could really get after them if you get 4 DBs and get more linebackers on the field. Some teams just don't have depth there. That guy that they have to play on the field is on the roster to rush the passer. And then now he's the third linebacker or the fourth linebacker in the 3-4. Like, he's trotting out there, and it's, oh yeah, you're the weak linebacker here. Get into the hook curl. And it's like, that guy's going against a slot receiver sometimes or something. It's not a great matchup. So I love that you brought that up, because that's what the Lions will, of course, try to do. They love getting into heavy personnel and then getting into empty. They did against the Chiefs. Go into empty. Amon-Ra St. Brown's in the slot against a linebacker. So I think it's a Laporta. This is not a bold proclamation here, but I think it's a Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown underneath throws. I think this from the inside, there's going to be a lot of peppering somewhere in between the numbers to those two.
The last week against the Bucs, they were getting in heavy personnel to throw and 11 to run. And I think that's also a smart thing to do against the Ravens. But the Ravens, it's going to be a hard sledding to run the ball on them, period. They have a 73% early down run defense success rate, which is the second highest in the entire league right now. Justin Madubuike, your boy, is playing really good football. And Jadeveon Clowney's been fantastic against the run. It is hard to run on this team right now. And the linebackers are playing really well. Mm-hmm. So what sort of matchups can they create in the passing game, I think, is the biggest answer, the biggest question for the Lions coming into this game. You mentioned Jared Goff. When I went back and watched the Bucs game, he's been playing well all year. I've really enjoyed watching Jared Goff. But there were a couple throws that he made in the Bucs game that were kind of even one step further than the ones that were impressive early in the season. Jared Goff has always been a guy where when everything's pointed in the right direction, he can really sling it. Oh yeah. I remember, I've told this story a bunch of times. They played against the Vikings when he was in LA on a Thursday night in 2018, and he was phenomenal. I mean, he made 4 or 5 just on the screws, downfield throws, and just burned down the Vikings, who were really good on defense at that point in that game. And that game sticks with me because I was there. And you still see that this year, where when things are moving in the right direction, when he has defined reads, it's like, all right, this is where you're going with the ball. He can rip it. But his creativity as a thrower has been more on display this year and was on display last week in a way that I can't really remember. He had an in-breaker that he threw to Amon-Ra St. Brown, kind of off-platform sidearm. And it felt like there was a little sprinkling of Matthew Stafford in there, which is very ironic, because the reason that the Rams traded for Matthew Stafford is that Jared Goff couldn't bring them the creativity that they needed. Yep. So if we're going to see these flashes of Jared Goff being a little bit more creative as a thrower, not a ton, but a little bit, does that change the perception of what the Lions can achieve with Jared Goff as their quarterback this year?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The 2 to 3 throws. Now I totally agree. I called it a straddle sidearm, and the last time I posted a clip calling it a straddle sidearm was Stafford 2 weeks ago. So the 2 times I posted clips this season of a straddle sidearm is Stafford and Jared Goff, which I'm
so glad you saw that too, because it was the first place my mind went. I was like, that's a Stafford throw. And the comparison between those two, there's so many different layers to that.
And it just like, it looks like a second baseman or a shortstop turning too. Like, it's just, that's what it kind of looks like. I think how Goff has played, we know what this offense can be. Do they have the elite firepower that some of the offenses? No, but they're very, very good on offense. And I also think this defense is playing not only just good ball, but very good ball. And I think that how Goff is throwing, what we know this offense is, what that defense is, it's like, yeah, I think that absolutely. This is not just like, oh, nice frisky playoff team. This is more contender team. And I think that's how we should talk about them. They keep answering the bell. This seems great. I really enjoy watching the Lions.
I'm so excited about this week because I
Yeah,
think this
this
is
game's
another
awesome.
test where you
Yep.
learn so much about what they can be on offense.
Both teams. It's great.
Jahmyr Gibbs coming back this week, most likely, even with Montgomery down. I think that's a big one. The one injury to the Ravens defense, Marcus Williams has a hamstring injury, so he's not practicing, but his shoulder that he's dealing with, he really can't use one of his arms right now, that pec injury that he had earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And one stat I thought was notable about this, the coverage distributions for these teams. The Ravens run a ton of quarters on early downs. They're like one of the highest rates in the entire NFL. The Lions have faced the least amount of quarters coverage in the league on early downs.
Yeah.
And so them seeing more quarters and potentially having safeties that can drive on some of those wraps and in breakers that we see the Lions like to throw. Can Marcus Williams do that right now? Is he driving down on some of those in breakers with the way that his shoulder is bothering him? So against the Lions specifically, I think that's worth keeping an eye on.
Absolutely. It's different from the Bucs. Why some of those throws against the Bucs were so cool from Goff is because the Bucs safeties drive down on everything and it plays so aggressively. So no, that's great bringing up. I know I've been trying to picture why you brought that up, that they haven't seen a lot of quarters. I've been like trying to kind of like bounce around in my head. Maybe some of the run game stuff, I guess, is that they don't want
that would be my guess.
Yeah,
that would be my guess.
But you can still find answers with that. No, but it's a great point to bring up. Also, like just how those Ravens DBs play and how the Lions running backs play or receivers play. It's like great kind of cruiserweight kaiju battle. So I'm excited for that this season or this week. I think that's gonna be good.
It's gonna be a really, really fun game. I'm pumped about that one. It is time for Win My Fourth Screen. For those of you guys that are unfamiliar, this is the solicitation for which game belongs on the fourth screen of my Sunday kind of setup. And typically, we like to lean into the sadness that is associated with some of these games. And boy, do we have some options this week. This one's from Mick Sloan. Mick says, Maze, there are only 6 early games on Sunday, and I probably don't need to tell you to include this one. But you asked to lean into the sadness, and so I am a New England fan dipping into a well of self-loathing to urge you not to look away from Bills Patriots. For 2 decades, the Patriots dominated the Bills. And to be honest, it wasn't even totally fun. I would watch Brady lay waste to Buffalo year after year, smashing multiple generations of hearts in the process, and get a little existential. I think to myself, do they deserve this? Why should we get to be so fortunate while others suffer? Where is our empathy for our fellow man? Well, I don't ask myself those questions anymore because now the rivalry is flipped as abruptly and totally as any divisional bout I can remember. We had the past 20 years with Brady, and they've got at least the next 10 with Josh Allen. And while Brady gutted the Bills with precision, consistency, and professionalism, Allen is returning the favor with something entirely different. A you think you can stop me, watch this attitude that is more than just dominance. It's vengeance. It's the antithesis of staid Belichickian professionalism. It's awareness on Allen's part that he is ferrying tormented Bills fans to safety, making the Patriots fans hurt the way our team hurt them. And as I watch this happen, I again get existential. Allen's dominance over the Pats is looking every bit as thorough as Brady's over the Bills, at least for the immediate future. But here's the big difference, Maze. After the 2 decades of terror we forced on these poor Bills fans, I know that we, the Patriots faithful, deserve the punishment we're receiving. This is our penance. You can watch Josh Allen take my soul, and you can know that I am handing it to him. Thank you for your consideration, Mick. Great stuff.
God.
Great stuff.
Keep them coming.
It's one of my favorite parts of every single week. You guys do a fantastic job. I will say, not enough entries this week. I need more from you guys in terms of participation. That's my only request heading into next week.
I tried to participate, and it was the Bears game. I was like, oh, that's right. That's right. It's already on your screen. But
I will say, I am in Miami, and so they will not be on a local feed. So the Bears will be one of the 4 screens this week, which is not how it typically works, but they automatically get one.
Always. Oh, God. Those every week. Every week I just sit back and get to listen because I just want everyone to know I don't see them before Robert starts reading them. So
it actually is a good way to do it. The fact
it's
that they're a
amazing
surprise for you.
the punchline a couple weeks ago or whatever it was last week was incredible. Like I haven't called my dad in 3 weeks. That was God, just I think about it every day. That one was an all-timer. Not that this one wasn't great too. So keep them coming.
You guys do a great job, but we need more. We need more submissions next week. All right. We're going to finish this off with Tice's Touts, your favorite 3 picks of the week. Very briefly, quick wins league update between you and I. It's the same. You're up by 3. You've been up by 3 for 2 weeks.
Okay.
The Niners lose last week, and I'm thinking this is it. Like, this is my chance to
birds are chirping
make up the fucking ground. The Niners lose, the Falcons lose. I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, here we go. Eagles throw the late pick. I lose that one. And then the Chargers come out. They score a touchdown on their opening drive. If that's a huge one. Chargers-Cowboys is a 2-game swing, depending on how it goes. And then, of course, the Chargers lose in spectacular fashion. Mm-hmm. So a week that started with me thinking I could make up 2-3-0. I'm still down by 3, and I'm not happy about it. But that's where we're at.
Shut up. Just keeping it up. Just keeping it up. Like, just keep battling. Built up that lead. That my first 15 was great. And then we're just holding on the rest of the game. We're classic West Coast script. Oh, Touts wise. Because I'm learning again. Like I'm getting better. Don't pick games I'm really excited to watch. Like, which has been good. Even if I haven't been
you're doing a good job with these 3 then.
Yeah. Even though I've been all over the place, like winning and losing, it's been great because now I just I get to enjoy all these great matchups. So starting off with an NFC East tilt, going with Washington -3 at the Giants. And I'm taking Washington there. I think Washington, like I said, is inconsistent, but they're better than the Giants. And I do trust Washington's offense a little bit. So I think -3, it's a weird line, everything at the Giants. I don't know, but I'm going with them. Why not? Have
you looked at the Giants injury report? Have you just seen it come up on your screen?
And then they lost another lineman in practice. It's unbelievable. I know. I apologize to Giants fans because I was talking about I said, if your team has one off in my article this week, it's like your team has one offensive line injury. I was like, sorry, Giants fans, we're multiple. Sorry guys, it's been rough. Speaking of rough,
Dan Duggan, who covers the Giants for us, he had to sign up for Twitter Blue last week because it was the only way he would get enough characters to fit the Giants' entire injury report into a tweet. That's all you need to know about the state of the New York Giants season.
That is such a good one. That's such a good anecdote. I love that. All right. Well, speaking of not going well, might need more characters going. And this is a team I just keep betting for whatever reason. But going with the Broncos +1, hosting the Packers. Kind of like Hackett Bowl Redux.
I need you to explain this one to me.
I don't know, dude. I just think I'm betting on the Broncos offense. I'm betting on the Broncos defense having some pride. I have no idea why I'm picking this game. I almost picked the Raiders against the Bears, but I was like, I'm betting on a backup quarterback battle. No, I'm not doing that. No
you got to let that one just wash over you. There's no reason to have any more stakes in that.
Exactly.
The stakes in that is just being a human. That's all you need to enjoy that game.
So whatever.
If you don't watch that game and feel alive, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Oh no, that's I cannot wait. That game will be up there. That game, that's going to be a 4-screen too. I might as well be a Bears fan watching that game. But yeah, going Broncos +1. I don't know why. Well, I don't know why, guys. I wish I had a good explanation for it. It'll win too. The ones I have no idea, I just shoot from the hip on, are the ones I'm winning on. The ones I have deep thoughts and numbers on, can't hit. I had Bill Belichick versus Derek Carr stats going back a decade, or whatever, 8 years. And then it was, oh man, look at this. They haven't had a positive EPA. Look at this. Freaking get skunked. So, all right, going on to the next game. Going Browns -3 at the Colts. And I think I brought up the Jaguars defense, how they treated that Colts offense. So now they're going against the Browns defense. It's just going with that get right game potentially, even though I think the Colts defense is kind of okay. But going against this Browns offense, I think they're a better team, even if I do think the Colts are frisky. So can't wait.
All right.
Just schlock at all 3 of them.
That one I understand. Broncos +1. Even if it ends up being right, it's hard for me to understand what led you to that place.
There's other games I was looking at. I'm kind of I don't want to bet on that one. I'm just tired of betting on I'm not betting on a Chargers game. Are you kidding? It's just those games. I'm not doing that anymore.
It's gonna be a weird week. It is gonna be a weird.
It's gonna be great.
I'm pumped for Sunday Night Football. There's a lot of good stuff that we're gonna dig into on our Sunday recap show. speaking of recap shows, please check out our Jags Saints recap that is going to be available on YouTube by the time you listen to this, most likely. Please go check that out. Highly encourage you to do so. For now, that is all we got. We will be back Sunday night recapping all things week 7. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you soon.